What's good, everyone? JDev, creator of the JDev Entertainment Network, has returned once again to give you precisely what you want, which of course will be more of me, because you know that I'm in such high demand, and quite frankly, I'm all that you're going to need, especially with this coronavirus pandemic that seems to never end and probably won't. Giving everyone my official UFC 249 predictions video. In case you didn't know, UFC 249 was originally supposed to take place on April 18th. The main event was Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Tony Ferguson. Good fight. Then it changed to Justin Gaethje versus Tony Ferguson because Khabib went back to overseas and they wouldn't let it fly out. I don't know. There's many factors. And then the card was canceled due to the fact that not a lot of people were behind it. There were politicians that were not behind it, and the state wasn't necessarily behind it. So Dana White had to get the fight on an Indian reservation, and there's just a lot of factors that were against it. But now the state of Florida is behind it. The politicians, for the most part, are behind it. They have a place to fight at. I don't know for sure if they're going to have fans or not. It doesn't sound like it, but as far as I know, Florida is allowing fans for certain events now starting this week, so they might even get fans. I doubt it, though. I think UFC won't have fans until maybe July or, at whatever the next fight that's not in May and that doesn't take place on Fight Island. Maybe there'll be some fans in attendance. I don't know for sure, though. But nonetheless, UFC 249, barring any catastrophic disaster or anything like that, seems like it's going to happen this time, and I am excited. This main event, in fact, this card is crazy. The prelims are crazy. Well, I mean, the fights aren't all that good, but they're fights that should be on the main card that are on the prelims, and I'm really, really excited about it. But before I get into my predictions, let's tell you this. If you're a fan of the UFC, and you like the UFC, and you're enjoying this video, and you like my predictions, go ahead and smash that like button. Share the video if you want. Make sure you leave me a comment. That's an important thing. You can pretty much talk about anything UFC related, predictions for this card, upcoming fights that you want to see, favorite fighters. I'm all for all that stuff. Just make sure you leave it in the comments. I'll respond to every comment I can. In fact, I will respond to every comment, usually within an hour, but maybe it might take me a little longer. And last but certainly not least, go ahead and make sure you hit that sub button, subscribe to the channel, join the team. All those things help out the channel, and it's greatly appreciated. Even if you do one of those things, it still helps out the channel, and that's going a long way. So, UFC 249, Saturday, May 9th, starting at about 7 p.m. Central Time on ESPN Plus and ESPN. I don't think any fights are on Fight Pass. However, I could be wrong. So, my predictions for the card. I'm going to get predictions on the whole card, too. Even fights that I'm not necessarily an expert on the fighters, but I'll do my best to try to give good predictions and look at kind of the ESPN pick'em percentages and see, based off of that. But I know a lot of the fights anyway. So starting off, this is a light heavyweight fight, which I think somebody's moving out. I don't know. We have Smiling Sam Alvey versus Ryan Spann. Alvey, I don't know why he's still in the UFC, just because of his smiling thing. Ryan Spann is a monster. He's 6'5". I haven't heard much about him, but just by size, reach, and all that, I think he's going to squash Sam Alvey. Then they're predicting him to lose, of course. He's a pretty big underdog, and I'm going to go with the favorite in this one because that's just the way it is. I usually look at the guy who has more height, more reach, and that's, if I don't know a lot about the fighter, that's where I pick off of. But I know a little bit about Smiling Sam Alvey, that's for sure. Next up, we have Bryce Mitchell versus Charles Rosa. This fight it could go 50-50 in my opinion. They're about 70-30 right now, a little bit off of that, but I think Bryce Mitchell will win this fight. And this is a fight that could have been on the main card too, but it's not. Nico Price versus Vicente Luque. Another fight where it's almost dead even. I don't like Vicente Luque. I think Nico Price is going to win this fight, and that's just my opinion. This is a fight I'm looking forward to. Two guys who I know a lot about. Jacare Souza versus Uriah Hall. I think it's for Uriah Hall's time to shine now. Jacare is going to be tough, but he hasn't really been successful lately. He won against Chris Weidman, but Weidman was winning that fight until he got tagged. That's usually happens in Weidman fights. But I think Uriah Hall will win good, and move up the middleweight ranks. And this is taking out place at middleweight too, which I'm surprised Jacare left light heavyweight so fast. Next up, we have Michelle Waterson, the Karate Hottie, versus Carla Esparza. I mean, they're predicting Michelle Waterson to win. I haven't been too impressed with her fights. I mean, she had a fun fight versus Joanna, young Jacek. I think Esparza is going to win, though. It's just my opinion. I don't know if I like Waterson that much. Well, I don't really like either of them, to be honest with you. I want to see Paige Van Zandt, but she's not that great fighting-wise, but she damn looks good. But she's a decent fighter, though. I'll give Paige that. She's a tough little shit. Tough, beautiful shit, I should say. So I'm going to go with Carla Esparza. That's one of those fights that could go either way. This is a really interesting fight. We have the two dinosaurs of the UFC, in my opinion. Alexei Olenek, the master of the Ezekiel choke, and the returning after a PED suspension, Fabricio Werdum. That's another one. It could go either way, although they have it 75 to 25 approximately. They're going with Werdum. If Werdum in his last few fights that I'd seen before he got suspended, he was really soft and pudgy, and I think he could have been in a lot better shape at heavyweight. So if he's in decent shape where he's a lot more better looking in the octagon, I think Fabricio Werdum is going to win this fight. Let's remember, Fabricio Werdum has won some important fights. Cain Velasquez, Fedor. I think Werdum's going to take this. But Olenek's a tough old fuck, so who knows. Here's a fight that should be on the main card, although guys that have lost a few fights here. Donald Cerrone and Anthony Pettis are fighting at welterweight, so Cerrone doesn't have to really cut a lot of weight, maybe 5 pounds. Anybody could win this one. I mean, it's a lot of people it could go either way, realistically. I'm going to go with Donald Cowboy Cerrone, and I think he's the betting underdog right now for Vegas odds. I just think Cerrone has more left in the tank. Pettis is, I don't know. I think he got lucky against Stephen Thompson, to be honest with you. So Cerrone's going to end his losing streak. He's going to fight Pettis, win that fight, and then maybe announce that he's retiring, although Cerrone wants to fight 2 more times this month. He wanted to fight on the card on Wednesday and Saturday of next week. So he wanted to fight Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, if I recall. Dana White said no, but hey, who's to stop Cowboy? Who knows? But I think Cowboy's going to pull it off. And, if Pettis wins, that's great for Anthony Pettis. So that's the prelims. I don't know if any of those fights are taking place on Fight Pass, but I'm excited for the whole prelims, to be honest with you. It's a good prelim. That's like a fight night card in itself. And next up, the main card, Greg Hardy, who I don't like because of his domestic stuff, versus Yoran De Castro. De Castro is undefeated, but he's only had a couple fights in UFC, where Greg Hardy's had quite a bit of fights, and then the Contender Series. I think Greg Hardy's going to pull this one off due to his height, his reach, and, he's had a lot of practice in the octagon, and practice makes perfect. But if he loses, I'll be somewhat happy. They're predicting Hardy to win on pick'ems, but it's 57 to 43, so it's still really close. But I'm picking Greg Hardy. This fight, I don't know if it should have been on the main card. I would have put Cerrone versus Pettis on the main card and flipped this as the main event of the prelims. But Jeremy Stephens versus Calvin Kattar. Stephens has lost a lot of fights in a row. He's kind of in the twilight of his UFC career. He's lost to Jose Aldo with that kick, and he had the fight with Yair Rodriguez. The 2 fights technically, because one was a no contest because of the eye poke, and then the one where Rodriguez beat him. I think Calvin Kattar is going to win this fight. I don't know how much Jeremy Stephens has left in the tank, but Jeremy Stephens is predicted to lose by this, but that's why they have the fights. Predictions mean nothing, but I'll still go with Calvin Kattar. But obviously Jeremy Stephens, I hope he does win, but I don't see it happening. This fight I'm really excited for. Hopefully it doesn't turn into a Derek Lewis versus Francis Ngannou, but Francis Ngannou versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik. This is going to be crazy. Now, Rozenstruik reminds me of Derek Lewis, except without the back problems, and a lot more calculated in the octagon. He was losing a fight against Alistair Overeem, and then had a vicious knockout with 4 seconds left at the end of the round to win the fight. Otherwise, he would have lost by decision. I think that was a 5-round fight, too. So he was getting pretty beat up. I mean, nothing crazy, like no big flurries by Overeem, but he was getting beat. And Ngannou, after the loss to Stipe and then the loss to Derek Lewis, seems like he's back to normal. He's had some impressive knockouts. Both of these guys have knocked out Alistair Overeem in crazy highlight reel fashion. That lip of Overeem's against Rosenstrike, and then Ngannou knocking him out senseless. This is going to be a crazy fight. Yeah, it's kind of even, 58% to 42%. I'm going to go with Ngannou. I think anybody could win this fight. A lot of people are sleeping probably on Jarry. So I can't say his name all of a sudden now, the first name. I've said it a million times before, but all of a sudden now I can't. But I think Rosenstrike is a little underrated right now, and he's kind of an unknown. But I think it's going to be a close fight. But I think Ngannou is going to win because he should win. Because he should be the guy that goes after the title next, after DC and Stipe have a fight, if they ever do have their last fight. So we'll see. All right, for the bantamweight title, we have the champion Henry Cejudo versus the former champion, returning after almost a 4-year layoff, Dominic the Dominator Cruz. A lot of people are picking Henry Cejudo to win this fight. Dominic Cruz has had a long layoff after a loss against Cody Garbrandt, where he wasn't 100% healthy, and I'm actually going to pick Dominic Cruz to win this fight. As crazy as it sounds, I think Cejudo is out of his league at this division. Cruz is going to have a big height advantage and a reach advantage. Not a, 5'4" versus 5'8". That's going to be huge. If he can keep, Cejudo grounded, I think Cruz is going to win this fight. Cruz has looked good in training montages that I've seen, and I think he's going to beat Cejudo. It's going to be an upset. I'm telling you, don't sleep on Dominic Cruz. Don't sleep on Dominic Cruz. And then, in the main event of the evening, a fight that's going to be crazy, and I'm really looking forward to. In fact, this fight alone is worth the $70 the event costs. Tony Ferguson, the former interim lightweight champion of the world, versus Justin the Highlight Gaethje. Lots of people are picking Tony Ferguson to win this fight. Ferguson has been on a big roll in the UFC. He's won like 8 fights in a row. He's beaten Cowboy Cerrone, he beat Anthony Pettis, he beat Kevin Lee, although that was a fight that he was probably losing at the time, but he pulled out an arm triangle against Kevin Lee. And Justin Gaethje's had, after a win against Michael Johnson, he lost to Eddie Alvarez and Dustin Poirier, and now he's won 3 in a row against James Vick, Edson Barbosa, and Cowboy Cerrone. Yeah, it's so tough to pick. I really like Justin Gaethje, obviously. Tony Ferguson is a monster in the octagon. I do think Ferguson would have had a good shot to beat Khabib, and I think Gaethje does too. This is a tough fight for Tony Ferguson. Ferguson does usually get into trouble in each one of his fights. People tag him, he goes down, but then gets back up. If he gets tagged by Justin Gaethje, I don't know if he gets back up. Gaethje's got really good wrestling. If he utilizes the wrestling that Keith Lee did, but doesn't get submitted by an arm triangle or, we'll see. I'm going to be crazy here. I'm going to pick Justin Gaethje to win this fight. I really do think Gaethje and Ferguson is going to be a crazy fight. Fight of the year, hopefully. Well, if it doesn't last long enough, it won't be fight of the year, but I'm looking forward to it. I hope not to be upsetted by this fight. I should pick Ferguson, but I just can't bet against Gaethje, especially with, he's gotten more smarter fighting. And if he can come at angles and catch Tony and clip him, I don't think Tony would get back up. And if he can utilize wrestling, if that doesn't work, and, ground and pound Tony a bit like Kevin Lee did, we'll see what happens. But make sure you give your predictions. Make sure you tell me what fights you want to see. Anything UFC related in the comments section. Smash that like button. Share the video if you want. Make sure you're subscribed. Enjoy UFC 249 Saturday, May 9th. Only on ESPN Plus and ESPN. Maybe one fight on Fight Pass. I don't know for sure. You can't go to the venue to watch it as far as I know. So you're going to have to order it. It's going to be fun. Club J-Dev is going to be watching it. We're going to have some fun. So I hope you enjoyed. And, of course, I'll be back again soon with another. In fact, you already know that J-Dev will return.